How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula, and welcome to another Pokémon GO discussion video. Alright, so yesterday night I was perusing through the Silph Road Subreddit, and I came across a thread that immediately caught my eye. The thread's title read, "Proof Niantic's marketing/sales strategy isn't working," and boy was there some concerning information reported in that thread. I'm going to be talking about how this year's Pokémon GO revenue was really low compared to previous years, and why this could be the case. I'm also going to be talking about how this could affect Pokémon GO's future. So yeah, with that said, let's roll the intro and get right into it. Okay, so this is pretty alarming info, but also predictable given how Niantic has been treating Pokémon GO throughout this year. According to this thread on the Silph Road subreddit, Niantic is making much less revenue this year compared to the previous years. In fact, this year's revenue is looking to be the lowest it's been since the year 2018. The revenue data from the website Statista shows that Niantic's year-to-date revenue is currently at around $386 million USD, which, if you were to extrapolate that amount to the full year, means Niantic could end up with close to around $660 million. Now, this amount is a very optimistic estimate. There aren't any more big events like the Johto Tour or Pokémon GO Fest for the rest of the year, so it's not like Niantic is going to be injected with a chunk of revenue like they received earlier on. So yeah, this could be a very poor earnings year for Pokémon GO, and Niantic in general. Given a lot of their design decisions this year, none of this data actually surprises me. I wouldn't consider it hyperbole to suggest that this year was probably the most tumultuous year when it comes to community sentiment. It just seemed like Niantic made very questionable decision after decision this year, and their drastic drop in revenue is definitely a sign that the community is responding to them. Something that I found very interesting is that Niantic's best years in terms of revenue were actually during the pandemic, and this makes a lot of sense to me. For one, it was during these years that they introduced the Remote Raid Pass, which I'm sure contributed to a huge amount of financial growth. We also had a bunch of pandemic-related bonuses added to the game, which brought huge improvements to basic gameplay. I think if there's an implied correlation, the game was making way more money for Niantic as a result of these pandemic bonuses. It wasn't until Niantic started to slowly roll back on them where we see a decline in that revenue. I believe this is because the game just felt better to play, as most of those pandemic bonuses revolved around quality of life improvements. Since more players were motivated to play the game, they were in turn more willing to invest their money. This one Reddit comment pretty much sums it up. They said the pandemic, I'm sorry to say, actually helped the game become a lot better because it forced them to make changes that actually enhanced everything that we were already doing. When you start taking away things that should have remained as they were post-pandemic, it just makes people less likely to invest. I never, ever bought lures before the pandemic. Now that they only last 30 minutes again, I have no interest in buying them when on a regular grind at a local spot. Incense was a hot topic item for a long while after they reverted it back to its former, which I think made sense. But what they should have done was reduce it just a tad bit and not kill it altogether. As it is now, it's just pointless to buy them. They're really hitting themselves in 2022, and I don't like it. I really do agree with this comment. After Niantic rolled back certain bonuses, it made certain items like lure modules and incense practically useless. They were only worth using with the bonuses enhancing them. I really do think this was a major factor when it comes to this decline in revenue, and I also think less players are actively playing the game overall because of how the game feels right now. The reality is, Pokémon GO just isn't fun without the quality of life improvements that the pandemic bonuses brought to the game. I do think less players are motivated to play the game compared to last year, and ultimately, less players are spending money. Now, it's not just with these bonuses getting removed that is contributing to this decline in revenue. Niantic committed the cardinal sin of free-to-play mobile gaming, and that is to push away the whales with horrible bundle boxes. This has been the most prevalent topic of discussion on my channel for the past few weeks, and I firmly believe it has been Niantic's biggest misstep this year, even more so than the rollback of pandemic bonuses. A lot of the heaviest spenders in the game, like Brandon Tan, have pretty much stopped any kind of spending with Pokemon Go, and it's solely because of the drastic decline in value with these boxes. Seriously, it pretty much had a huge ripple effect on the entire community. Even some of the most diehard Niantic apologists, like Ken from Pokemon Professor Network, have expressed their dismay for these boxes. I think Niantic's aim with these decreased value boxes was to generate more revenue for the game, but it seems like this is having the opposite effect. Most players are not actively raiding or hatching eggs like they used to, mainly because they are not getting their money's worth with the Pokeshop's abhorrent boxes. This is something Niantic needs to course correct as soon as possible, because this decline in revenue could have been mitigated if they actually had decent boxes worth buying. I found it interesting that even with really good 7km eggs or highly coveted raid bosses, people are still not willing to spend like they used to for raid passes and incubators. I think if Niantic doubles down and continues down this route, then it could be disastrous for Pokemon Go. Alright, so now that I talked about the decline in revenue and the reasons for that decline, let's now actually discuss what this could all mean for Pokemon Go's future. Honestly, this decline in revenue could only lead to two things. One, Niantic could start cutting costs by laying off developers, which in turn would drastically reduce the quality of the game. I think this is a worst case scenario, as the game has already been suffering with quality control as of late. Another possible scenario is that nothing happens at all, and this is because even with this decline in revenue, Niantic is still able to keep the ship afloat given their other revenue sources outside of in-game purchases. Believe it or not, Pokemon Go is not the biggest revenue source for Niantic as a company. Sure, it probably does contribute quite a bit, but most of their earnings actually comes from selling data. In case you didn't know, Niantic is a tech company first and a game development studio second. They are way more interested in getting as many people out and about collecting all sorts of location data for them to sell to advertisers. As one Reddit post puts it, Niantic is a tech company pretending to be a game company. They received a valuation of $9 billion with no help from any of their games or IPs. I think it goes without question that, if my guess is true, that the game will continue to go down the way that it is going because Niantic actually does not care as much as players think they do about any kind of in-game purchase revenue. They want players to be out and active, doing all sorts of activities like visiting points of interest, AR mapping tasks, etc. It's highly possible that this is where their priorities truly are at. Thus, this decline in revenue doesn't move the needle in terms of any gameplay design decisions. So yeah, in conclusion, this decline in revenue is not good news for anyone involved. For Pokemon Go players, this could lead to a decline in gameplay quality as Niantic makes possible cuts to their development team. On the same token, Niantic must not be happy about the decline in revenue themselves. I mean, who would be happy if they were making less money? I really do hope this ends up being a swift kick in the butt for Niantic so that they can get their act together and produce a much better experience, make better decisions in the areas that I talked about, and I think they will end up okay. This year might have been a bad year, but Niantic has the capabilities to bounce back next year, but it's really up to them. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, but I would love to know your thoughts. What are you thinking in regards to this decline in revenue? What do you think Niantic is going to do in response? Let me know down below in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list, so if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.